All right, guys. Let's talk about the D700. There's a lot of YouTube channels based around the D700, the Legend. You have to ask yourself, why is it called the Legend? You know, how do we fall into this rabbit hole? We're still here. You know, people fall in love with a lot of inanimate objects in their life. I mean, we've all had our favorite pair of jeans, favorite pair of shoes. Maybe over our lifetime we had a favorite car. You know, a fisherman has their favorite rod, and you know, guitar players certainly have their favorite guitars. I'm a guitar player. I have my favorite guitars. And of course, a lot of people in photography have their favorite photography gear, their favorite camera. Now, a lot of pros could care less. I mean, it is just a tool. At the end of the day, it's just a tool. You know, so no big deal. But what's interesting about the D700 is that as you dig deeper into this rabbit hole and you find more and more videos of real professional photographers who used those cameras when they were new as their primary tool for their job, you know, 15 years later, they've moved on to the most advanced camera gear. Maybe they even switched systems. Maybe they're shooting Sonys or Canons. But they all love the D700. None of them says a bad thing about that camera. Some of them, even though they've sold off all their gear when they've switched systems or moved on up, they've kept the D700. Some of them have regretted even selling the D700. And of course, it's been known as the Legend. How does something like a camera that's only 15 years old become the Legend? I mean, even within your photographic circles, when you say the Legend, people know what it is. It's quite incredible, because when you think of all the cameras that have come along, you know, photography goes back a long way. You know, there have been cameras that have come along that have changed the course of photography, you know, the technology that's come along. You know, you think of big names back in the, you know, going back like Leicas and Hasselblads and, you know, Rolleiflexes and those types of brands, and of course the people associated with those. But none of those cameras, they might be legendary, but none of them are called the Legend. And lots of cameras that have shaped our photographic direction. I mean, when we went from film to digital. Now, digital, actually, my understanding, just started out as NASA created digital photography in the early 60s. And then later along came Kodak, who played with the technology in that. But it's my understanding that in the early 2000s, it was Fuji that came along with the most practical first consumer-based digital camera. And of course, things went on from there. But that camera and those cameras at the time are considered legends. And then you look in the mirrorless revolution. First mirrorless came out in 2004, believe it or not, from my research. It was Epson put out the first true mirrorless. It was a rangefinder style camera, and then Leica put one out not too long after that. And several jumped on the bandwagon. And you know, Sony pretty much gets credited with that technology and evolution, and they took that and ran with it. Clearly, they were the leaders for a long, long time. I think Canon is caught up, and Nikon's almost there. I mean, it's equitable. So yeah, but those cameras aren't called Legends either. When you say the Legend, it's the D700. Now, of course, you know, it's a 12 megapixel camera. It was a professional camera at the time, still technically a professional camera. But it boils down to the image quality. It's just nothing else like it. My understanding is that that sensor only went in to that camera, the D700, and its bigger brother, the D3. And I believe it was a Panasonic sensor. For whatever reason, they didn't use a Sony sensor. Either Sony was short, or they had a contract dispute, or, you know, someone beat someone on a golf course and got pissed. I don't know. But whatever the reason, You know, they put that sensor in those cameras, and that in its own right started it. But the D3 is a great camera, but it's not the Legend, because even though they have the same sensor, the picture quality, the color saturation is better on the D700. It just has that look, and you know the look I'm talking about. It's that sort of film quality, but with digital quality at the same time. The 12 megapixels, in my opinion, is perfect for people. You know, I love that camera. Now, how did I fall into the rabbit hole? My first DSLR was a D3200. That was a great camera. I learned a lot with that camera. And my wife actually bought that. And the funny thing is, my two most popular images on social media were taken with that camera to this day. And one of them was literally with the 17-55 kit lens, and the other one was an inexpensive 10-20 Sigma. It's like, I think it's a 3.5 to a 4.6 or something like that. I still have that lens. These are the two images I'm referring to. The D3200 I eventually sold to my friend so he could get into photography. But I never loved that camera by any stretch. For the D3200, I went to the D7200. Now, at the time, my dream camera was the D850. And the D850s were going for about $3,500 or around there at the time. I couldn't afford that, but I did need to graduate. I'm not a technology nut per se where I have to have the latest and greatest thing. I just don't care. If my phone works, it's fine. I don't need the next thing. I don't need Windows 11 if Windows 10 works. I'm that guy. So what I do is tend to wait and buy the older generation. So what I did when I decided I wanted the D7200, and the reason I went with that, or with this D7200, is because it had no low pass filter, which I really wanted, and it had dual card slots. So what I did is I waited until the D7500 came out. Price dropped on this. I got this at the time for less than $1,000. You could probably get it for $500 or $600 now, I don't know. But it also has a great reputation as a camera with good quality images, and it was my main camera for a while. But I wanted to get into full frame, and did not have the money for the D850, but playing around on YouTube like I do with photography and all that, I kept tripping across videos that talked about this Legend, this D700 that had the greatest image quality, and of course it was full frame. It was a professional camera, a $3,000 camera when it came out. Built like a tank. Well, I'm a big dude. I prefer big cameras. I don't like little plasticky toys. I'll break it. And so I looked into it. I did a ton of research. Now, I don't really like buying secondhand electronics. I just don't. So my intention was to find something inexpensive with a low shutter count. And for me, the low shutter count was 40,000 or less. So I did a lot of shopping, did a lot of research. I finally found one. I found one at, where did I find it at? I found it at Adorama, of all places. So I ended up buying my D700. And this is the craziest thing. This had a shutter count of 26,000. The price was $279, and the grip was 14 bucks. With shipping and tax, this camera, this $3,000 professional grade camera with a low shutter count in excellent condition, cost me $327. I spend more than that when I go to a Giants game. I mean, what a steal. This camera for 327 bucks. Now the funny thing is, I have the D7200, but I don't love this camera. You know, whatever. I shoot it once in a while still, you know, but you know, I don't love it at all. I love this camera. Everything about it is true. You know, the image quality is awesome. I fell in love with it. I loved it so much that I bought another one. I have two D700s. This one, I took a chance on eBay with a very highly rated seller. Always nervous. This one had similar shutter count, 26 or 7,000. This one came with a grip, an extra battery, a ton of other bells and whistles in the box. And this one, with shipping and tax, was $384, less than $400 for this amazing camera. The reason I bought two, there was a few reasons. One, I liked this so much I decided that this is going to be part of my workflow. Portraits. I love the way it looks for portraits. I just fell in love with that look. I also happen to like it for street photography as well, again, because there's a lot of times people in it, but the colors are just fantastic. And I don't have to tell you that. It's why you're watching this video. It's why you have one too. I love those cameras. I don't love my other cameras. It's a strange love affair. The funny thing is, since then, I have added the D850. This is fairly new to my arsenal. But because of the advent of the mirrorless, thank you, this camera was almost new in the box. 1400 shutter count. Came with a battery, came with a grip, came with some other accessories, brand new in the box for $2,000. I just couldn't pass it up. But here's the thing. I'm liking that camera. I am. But I'm really not so sure it's that much better than the D700. A few weeks back, and I might do a video on this, I had a photo shoot, a portrait shoot in one of the cities here at the Quad. And I had the I had a D850, but I took the D700. And the pictures came out great. Now, recently, which I'm doing some videos on, I got to shoot a monster truck show 2 nights. And what I did is I took, again, I have the D850, but I took the D700. I knew there'd be people, and there'd be a lot of color. I was concerned because the lighting isn't great as it gets dark and there is action. I believe with the grip you get maybe 5 shots per second with the D700, but I took 2. I took them both. So I put the 24 to 70 on one, 70-200 on the other, and I went out and blasted away 2,000 shots with these cameras. Interestingly enough, towards the end of the night, the one with the D7, with the 70-200, which is the lens I probably use 75% of the time or more, it stopped. The shutter just quit shuttering, just quit clicking, and got stuck somehow. It seems to work okay now. Maybe just we got tired. I don't know. I put it through its paces out there for sure. I'll have it checked out. It seems to be okay. But anyway, I decided to take the D850 by itself the next day, and I shot with that. The D850 by far has a much faster focus. It focuses so much quicker than this, and of course it's got, I think, 9 shots per second, and it's obviously incredibly capable. Of course, the images are huge. As part of the files are massive. But when I compared the 2 images, it really it didn't make a difference. A 45 megapixel more modern camera versus the 12 megapixel, even shooting at like 2500 ISO, there wasn't a whole lot of discernible difference. So the D700 is awesome. It is a strange love affair. I love those cameras. I know you guys love the cameras. And I'm still stuck in this rabbit hole. In fact, I love this so much. I've come across 2 more over the past year or so with super low shutter counts for like $400, and I love these cameras so much it's difficult to not buy them. Anyway, folks, I'm going to leave you with some of the images with the D700, and we love them, right? They're the awesomest. It's 2023. I'm still shooting portraits with it as opposed to my D850. I just love the 12 megapixels. People get into this megapixel thing like that's the end all be all. I think there's so many megapixels now in cameras, I don't think any printer can actually keep up with them, to be honest with you. And I have a friend who has a Sony that has so many megapixels. The lenses he has aren't even capable of taking advantage of the 60 megapixels that the camera is capable of. It's it's like, why? Anyway, the D700 is a strange love affair with this camera. I love the cameras, and what can I say? I'm just gonna keep using them. So there you go, folks. Take care. I will see you on the next one. If you got some comments, great. How did you fall into the D700 rabbit hole? All right, man. Take care. Bye.